Garamendi presses Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on a defining question. Does the administration's so-called peace plan for Ukraine actually mean forcing Ukraine to surrender to Russia? Hegseth's refusal to give a direct answer raises serious concerns about U.S. commitment to defending democracy abroad.
Mr. Secretary, in your opening statement, you spoke to the issue of cutting waste and abuse at the Pentagon. I assume you intend to do that. Is that correct? Yes? No?
No, we have done that, sir.
All right. And therefore, it must be your responsibility. I want to bring to your attention a statement that the President made in early February. He said there is no reason for us to be building brand new nuclear weapons. We already have so many. You could destroy the world 50 times over, 100 times over. And here we are building new nuclear weapons. And they're building new nuclear weapons. We're all spending a lot of money that we could spend on other things that are actually, hopefully, much more productive. So I'd like to focus for a few moments on one of the most expensive programs at the Department of Defense, the Sentinel ICBM, which is to replace the Minuteman III. The cost of this program has exploded from $78 billion to over $141 billion, not including a new nuclear bomb for the Sentinel and the command and control systems, which would add somewhere $20 to $40 billion. All the while, we have a Minuteman III that can continue to provide the ground leg of the triad for at least 10 to 15 more years, should we cut the Sentinel program.
Well, President Trump is correct to point out that proliferation is very dangerous. But he has also, in his budget, ensured we fully fund the nuclear triad, every aspect of it, in a historic way. The Sentinel, as one leg of it, and that modernization is critically important. As you know, it faces a Nunn-McCurdy breach for being behind, and as a result, it has to be reviewed. But it's incredibly important. And so our budget does look at ensuring to...
Excuse me, sir. So you have made a decision to continue even though the review is incomplete?
The review is ongoing. The investments we've made allow us to continue should the review come out the way we hope it does.
You continue the Sentinel program even though the Nunn-McCurdy review is incomplete. I'd like now to move over to Ukraine. The chairman of this committee spoke very strongly about the Ukraine situation and the necessity of the United States being strong in support of Ukraine. It's very, very clear that a review of what Mr. Putin has said over the last 2 decades, that he is determined to reestablish the Soviet empire, and Ukraine is the current step to achieve that. Ukraine's security is our security, my view, and what is dangerous for Ukraine will be dangerous for NATO and therefore dangerous to the United States. Yesterday, 2 days ago, in response to Senator McConnell, who asked, which side of the Ukraine conflict do you want to win? And you said, the President is committed to peace in that conflict. Ultimately, peace serves our national interest, and we think it serves the interest of both parties, even though that outcome will not be preferable to many in this room, at that time, the Senate, and I would also say this room too, preferable to many in this room and many in our countries. Mr. Secretary, when you said that peace serves our national interest, does that peace come from a complete surrender of Ukraine and total victory for Russia?
That's never been a characterization of my statement, sir. We think peace is in the best interest, but I would point out, Ukraine is not the U.S. and Ukraine is not in NATO, and to draw that comparison is to draw one that is not correct. But we hope for peace. We believe peace is in the best interest of the United States of America, and our policies are pointing toward that.
Well, let me go back to what I asked you. Is that peace, could the achievement of that peace through the complete surrender of Ukraine and the withdrawal of U.S. support for Ukraine, is that a worthy peace, and is that peace in the long-term and actually the short-term interest of the United States?
If you look at the billions of dollars that have been invested in Ukraine, you could hardly characterize that as a surrender from the United States. So the existing military front line of troops is as difficult as it is, moving slowly. Where peace ends at the end of that, nobody really knows. But the president has worked harder than anybody else to try to get a peaceful outcome.
Gentleman's time's expired. Chair, and I recognize the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Whitman.
What you just witnessed from Congressman Garamendi wasn't a routine policy exchange. It was a necessary reality check for a defense secretary who continues to treat global security like a political negotiation rather than a matter of life, death, and democratic survival. And that is exactly why moments like this matter. When Garamendi pressed Pete Hegseth on whether peace in Ukraine means allowing Russia to swallow an entire sovereign nation, Hegseth couldn't give a straight answer. And that silence speaks louder than anything he could have said. Because at the heart of this exchange is a fundamental question. What does the United States stand for? Do we stand with democracies fighting for their survival, or do we fold the moment a dictator decides he wants someone else's land? Garamendi laid out the stakes with crystal clarity. Vladimir Putin is not simply fighting over territory. He has openly said, repeatedly, for years, that he wants to rebuild a Russian empire. Ukraine is step one. If he gets away with it, every security expert agrees, the dominoes fall next into Eastern Europe. And when Congressman Garamendi said Ukraine's security is our security, he wasn't speaking in metaphors. A world where autocrats win by force is a world where America loses influence, loses security, and loses allies. And here's the part that should have shaken every person listening. Hegseth kept insisting that peace is the priority without defining what that peace looks like. Peace achieved how? Peace for whom? Peace at what cost? Because when the aggressor refuses to stop, when the tanks keep rolling, peace becomes a euphemism for surrender. And that's exactly what Garamendi forced Hegseth to confront. This is why this exchange matters, because at a time when Ukraine is literally fighting for the right to exist, the U.S. Secretary of Defense couldn't say outright that surrender is unacceptable. A Secretary of Defense who cannot define victory, cannot define peace, and cannot even commit to supporting Ukraine's right to survive is not someone who should be anywhere near decisions that affect global security. And on top of that, Garamendi called out something else, the out-of-control Pentagon spending that magically escapes Republican scrutiny until it involves helping Ukraine defend its democracy. We're pouring hundreds of billions into programs like the Sentinel ICBM, while the Department of Defense fails audit after audit, and Hegseth has no answers for those financial black holes. Yet somehow, the only spending Republicans want to slash is the spending that stops Putin's aggression. Garamendi exposed the contradiction, the strategy, and the danger. And what makes it even more serious is how casually Hegseth dismissed the threat, as if the U.S. isn't watching the largest land invasion in Europe since World War II unfold in real time. This moment was not about one hearing. It was about whether America is prepared to stand firm against authoritarian aggression, or whether we retreat while saying the word peace like it's a magic spell that fixes everything. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure you subscribe and share, because more people need to understand exactly what's at stake right now.